I personally believe it's gonna be at least the headcount is gonna be like 10% of what it is right now in the next 5 years. So it's gonna be really hard.
Krzysztof isn't saying we're looking at 10% decline. He's saying 10% of the current level. That's a 90% decline. And it's not coming from somebody trying to sell you AI tools. It's coming from somebody with 2 decades of experience, spanning the New York Times, which went through a massive restructure, to the browser company, which sold to Atlassian, again, a massive restructure. So what's actually happening? Why does Krzysztof think developer levels are going to collapse?
We are at a very peculiar time, and I've been programming for 29 years, I think now. And that had never happened in my career. Like iPhone came out and that was like a innovative thing, but because it changed the landscape of what portable devices were. It really did in terms of UX and, unblocked the possible creative ideas. I think this is groundbreaking because I think programming languages are becoming implementation detail. I don't think I've written projects in at least 4 different languages, 2 of which I have never written a line of code manually in my life. If you're only the person that's following the guidance, that's not coming up with the system design, well, a lot of those programmers are replaceable now. And that's where I think that there's a lot of hate in the programming community around quality of AI code, which I just don't get because, of course, it can generate shitty code. And I'm not going to say that it's always good or bad. Even with my setup where I spend a lot of the time figuring out how to use AI, it sometimes generates code that I'm like, yeah, this is not going to work. But the thing is, what AI allows us to do is I can run 5 different sessions on 5 different work trees with slightly different description of how I want to build something. And I'm going to get 5 different implementations. I would be terribly scared right now if I was just starting in this industry. Because if you are just starting, I think you should focus on applied AI or ML. That is the only 2 directions I see as something that's worth starting your studies out or career out. Everything else might be replaced.
It's easy to talk in extremes, and there will always be exceptions. But ultimately, if Krzysztof is right, and AI replaces a lot of those lower level developer tasks that were traditionally done by juniors, companies will stop hiring juniors. Juniors will never become mids, mids will never become seniors. It's the industry pipeline that will disappear.
We are at a point where in most companies, it doesn't make sense to hire juniors, which means how are those people are going to advance to be mid and senior? Like if they don't get the jobs, they cannot do that. So we're going to have in the industry, we're going to have a lack of people of this level, and in a few years, lack of mid-level people. And senior is terminal position, how they call it, is basically don't need to advance.
On the flip side, if you're a small team, a startup or an indie developer, as long as you have the knowledge and experience and network, you've never had more leverage. The project that previously needed a team, which basically means funding, is now possible without it.
I honestly prefer smaller teams. I think small, very well assembled team, because we have different, preferences, predispositions, can move way faster than large team. Large team means a large overhead and like agreeing of what works and what doesn't. And also, I always thought that it's always easy to hide incompetence when you have a large team to hide behind. And if I have 4 or 5 people in a team, I can see what everyone's doing. It's really hard for someone not to do anything meaningful and still get away with it. And I don't care about that. I care about work-life balance for people. So I want them to be as efficient as possible, because I'd rather have them finish work an hour earlier and just go to spend time with family or do anything else. If you're in a startup and you're not leveraging AI to prototype 10 different ways of making your product better, then you're just wasting your resources. I think it's perfect time to do this kind of exploration programming. I spent 14 hours yesterday working with AI, and I tested so many things. Like it would take me even with, building dev tools my whole career, testing all those things would take me at least 4 or 5 days normally. But with AI, I was able to cram everything into 14 hours. Not that I recommend people work 14 hours. I just get very excited about an idea. The bar has gone up. Since the AI tools were introduced, the quality that I expect and the features I expect from a product has gone up because I see how much I can get done alone. So if you have a big budget and a lot of people hired, I hope your project is really good because those expectations are only going to go up. If you're learning, definitely focus yourself on applied AI and ML learning because I think that's the future. I do think that right now is an amazing time to build your own products because something that used to cost tens of thousands of dollars in terms of labor, you can cover now with, a subscription for $20 or $200. What's nice is one of the best use cases for using LLMs is learning. So if I really wanted to learn marketing, now is the best time to do it because I can basically feed what I know to LLM and tell it, well, I actually want to learn about this and this, and it will feed me information I'm missing. It's not going to feed me the same stuff that I already know, which is, I think, where education will go.
Whilst headlines will continue to focus on big companies hiring and firing, Krzysztof makes an interesting argument, focusing on the need to hire juniors or build larger teams in the first place, and what that is going to do to the wider industry. If we're not replacing developers at the top of the funnel, it's not going to take too long for the engineering workforce to look very different to how it does today.